Turnabout is fair play, Luthor. And I'm all about fair play.
Illusions. Flash and Supergirl aren't finished in Madagascar.
You're spreading us a little thin.
We go where we're needed, Green Arrow. Did you second guess the Martian like this?
Welcome everybody, I'm RJ of The Nerdy Brew, and here on this channel we talk TV, movies, and everything in between, all while drinking a cup of coffee. Now if you like one of those things or all of those things, why don't you consider like, subscribing, and hit that notification bell and becoming a fellow Brewster. So today, fellow Brewsters, this is a coffee talk. I wanted to have a conversation about some things that are going on. It's something that I'm really excited for. And it starts with this for Couchgod, and for those who don't know, Superman Legacy is happening. It's supposed to be coming out in 2025. It's supposed to be like a reboot, reset of the DC extended universe or the cinematic universe from the DC superheroes, right? James Gunn, the director of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, is the one who is the overseer of how that new transition of movies is gonna look like, right? So there's no more Henry Cavill. That's how Couchgod calls him, Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill. there's not gonna be any more Henry Cavill. He's out as Superman. Maybe he could come back in an Elseworld situation, but he's no longer the mainstay Superman. And they've casted the new Superman and Lois, and the new Superman is David Cornsweet and Cornsweet. I don't know how to pronounce that man's name, but I haven't seen him before. I know from the fact of being on the internet / YouTube that he's been a fan casting for a long time. So James Gunn took that, and maybe his acting quality is good as well, but he ended up becoming the new Clark Kent / Superman. And then there's Rachel Braunschwein, and she is the new Lois Lane, and I know her from House of Cards. She was great in House of Cards, a very tragic story inside of House of Cards. And if you haven't watched House of Cards, I definitely recommend that show. And then there was also her in The Marvelous Miss Maisel. So I've only seen one episode of Marvelous Miss Maisel. It wasn't necessarily my stilo, but I did enjoy her performance in that one episode I saw. And she was just able to chew up scenes, and I could see why she was able to carry the show. So with the character that she had, the moxie that she had as that character, she's a good analog for Lois Lane. So I will say those are casted as the main characters within the lore and the mythology of Superman, of Lois Lane and Clark Kent are those two actors. And I guess when it comes to visually as their representation, they're good casting for it. But the casting list has grown. They haven't casted their main villain yet, and they haven't casted Lex Luthor as of yet. But they did cast some supporting characters, and with them casting some supporting characters, it's very obscure, and it's like, what is this movie gonna turn into? But the new casting of the characters is Nathan Fillion, right? Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner. And for those who don't know, Green Lantern, there's multiple Green Lanterns. They're a police agency inside of space. And there have been multiple Earth iterations of Green Lantern for whatever certain reasons, that there has been a Green Lantern for Sector 2814, which is our range of the universe, right? And the mainstay from the Silver Age, and who's constantly known as the main Green Lantern, is Hal Jordan, right? So they have Hal Jordan, and the thing is, Nathan Fillion, for many years now, at least over a decade, has been the voice of Green Lantern in all the animated things. He's been cast as Hal Jordan, or fan casted as Hal Jordan, for many years now. So for him to carry on that voice of Hal Jordan just seemed right with how his performance is and who he is as an actor. And the thing is, they have him casted as Guy Gardner. One, he's always with James Gunn. James Gunn always makes him integral as like a good cameo in one of his films. If we see him or we don't see him, Nathan Fillion makes his way in. So it's good that he has him as Guy Gardner. And the thing about Guy Gardner is the second and or third. He's the third Green Lantern. No, I just had to make sure in my mind before I start spitting out facts. He was introduced in Justice League International. That was just a reboot and a rebranding after the Justice League. He was on that team as a Green Lantern. The thing about Guy Gardner is he's overly obnoxious as a character.
Ugh. Hey, you better get back there. As for Earth, when trouble calls, Guy Gardner picks.
Just wanted to say nice work. You did a great job out there.
Sorry, pal. The autograph shack is closed. Can't risk a hand cramp.
Do I look like a fan?
Halloween costume, weird tiny mask. Yeah, you do. Neat. Your ring glows just like a real. Ah, you must be that last Green Lantern we had, the one who left the planet high and dry.
Just very arrogant and very stubborn and very cocky of himself, and he's not a really good team player. But recently in the comics, I say in the last like 10 years, they gave him, like, he still had the edge of being obnoxious, but what they have done is weaved in some nuance to him. Certain stories that he has been in, they have showed that he's a multi-dimensional, confusing kind of character. They tried to improve on what he is, but overall, he's still my least favorite Green Lantern out of all the Green Lanterns in the Green Lantern Corps. So I definitely feel confused and how does that work into this world about him being the Green Lantern, because he is more equated, and if he wanted to be an older Hal Jordan, like, why not? He understands the world and the characters in the comics of Green Lantern, so it'd be fine for him to be Guy Gardner. I find it being odd, but Nathan Fillion is cast as that. And then we have Isabel Marcet, and Isabel Marcet, she's the Dora Explorer. Dora the Explorer, like, she was the live action version of Dora. She was in Transformers 5. She was in that movie. She was a little girl in that movie. She's in the beginning of the movie, then she's not, and then she's in the end of the movie. And then also she was in Legends of the Hidden Temple, the movie. And just Dora and the Legend of the Hidden Temple movie, my daughter enjoyed those movies, so I was able to see her in that. And I just thought as her career continues, she'll be able to, you know, have her footing inside Hollywood, even though Hollywood is going through a writer's strike and an actor's strike right now. When things mellow out, I could see her career, you know, continue to blossom. But she got cast as Hawkgirl, and the thing about Hawkgirl, there's many iterations of Hawkgirl. Hawkgirl has been, like, if you want to get a base of who Hawkgirl is, and Hawkgirl's got a wide range of history, but Hawkgirl was in Justice League cartoon show, and Justice League Unlimited. There was a midway, like, series finale for Justice League called Star-Crossed, and it was like a middle movie that transitions into Justice League Unlimited, and I recommend that. All of it is on Netflix right now. But she was also in Legends of Tomorrow. The whole first season was about her and Hawkman with Vandal Savage, and me and Couchgod was watching that too. So yeah, if you want to get a basis visually, if you don't want to read the comics, then I recommend that. But her and her own comics, I would say that you should read these particular comics for Hawkgirl. I think that you should read Hawkgirl the Maw, and then there's also Hawkgirl, the Return of Hawkman, and she also has a new run that is Hawkgirl for Dawn of DC. And also my favorite iteration in the comics of her that I will continue to preach would be Earth 2. I will always preach and announce Earth 2, the comic book. And she has a great arc between Earth 2 and Earth 2 Society. It's a different one, but it's still like the same spirit of the character of Hawkgirl. So I do recommend that if you want to get into who the character Hawkgirl is. But all in all, though, Isabel Marcet has been casted as Hawkgirl. Then we have Hank. Barry. I don't think that's a good idea, Barry. I will never do that again. But I will say there's Anthony Kerrigan, who is casted as Metamorpho. Hank, right? Hank has gotten the role. And for those who haven't seen him act, I would first recommend Barry. Character was very a lot of fluctuating and hilarity ensued every time that character came on screen. So I do recommend watching Barry. And then also he had a great run on Gotham as Victor Zsasz. He just controlled the room, literally and figuratively. He controlled the room when he came on screen, and his character was true to the core of just being a criminal. And I enjoyed his performance on that. And he was also on The Flash. That was kind of like my first time seeing him on The Flash, and he wasn't a recurring role. And I didn't think that he was going to. When I saw him on Barry from The Flash, I was like, yo, this man is getting it work. And Barry was able to show his versatility as an actor. So I definitely enjoyed Anthony Kerrigan. And the thing about with Metamorpho and him as a character or an actor, I would not see them. Rex Mason is Metamorpho's real name, and Metamorpho is a man of the time, 1950s, really what the idea of masculinity was for that time. Square jaw, you know what I'm saying, that adventurer man, very handsome looks, right? That's who his character was. But they ended up changing that up. Also, to get a good reference of him would be in Justice League, the TV show, streaming on Netflix right now. And with him being, you can see the 2 episodes of who he is, and basically they changed up some minor details, but that's pretty much his origin story. Along with Metamorpho, he has these adaptability powers where his body has a different composition, so he'll be able to morph and move into different elements. So that's the gist of his abilities. But I think that he's a fine actor to get the role. But I'm excited to see what they do with him inside the movie. Then we have the man of the hour. Why I made this video all in the first place was to talk about Edi Gathegi, and Edi Gathegi. Edi Gathegi as Mr. Terrific. Okay, so before I get into Mr. Terrific and before I get into Edi Gathegi, I just want to talk about this right quick. There's a comic book with Mr. Terrific. I'll reference it at the end, but also Metamorpho is in that comic, and reading that, you'll be able to get to know who these characters are, and I'll get back to recommendations at the end of the video. But I just want to talk about this new casting, Edi Gathegi, right? And him being, if you don't know who Edi Gathegi is, right? You either know him from Twilight, you might know him as Darwin from X-Men First Class.
So I guess I'm coming with you. I like that.
Alex, get out! Do it!
Protecting your fellow mutants.
It's a noble gesture.
Feels good. Adapt to this.
He was also in The Harder They Fall. He played Bill Pickett, which was a side character. He had great episodes inside the show Justified, and that was kind of my first time really watching him and seeing him perform, just to get a sense of who he was. But then there was the show The Blacklist and Blacklist Redemption that he was in, and more prominently inside Blacklist Redemption. And that's all over like whatever streaming services you got. You could find it anywhere, and it's a good spin-off like side story inside the world of Blacklist that I do recommend. But then for me, what made me love him as an actor and to see him as an actor and to see him work as he does, it would be in the show Startup. Now, Startup originally was on Crackle, and I watched it when it was on Crackle, and then it got picked up by Netflix, and when it became on Netflix, it blew up and it got more people's radar. But when I was watching it on Crackle, and it had 3 seasons, and he plays a gangster leader, a gang leader of a Haitian community gang, right? Gang leader, but he wants to diversify their funds and increase their funds so he can make sure everybody eat. So they get involved with crypto. He gets involved with a designer, he gets involved with a banker, and then they also get money from Ron Perlman at some point. And it's just all of these things. And the thing about his character, he becomes close with the other characters, the other cast of the characters, but he ends up like, don't double cross him because he true to the core. I like the person that he needs to be somebody who lives that life. And he just had a blow-away performance in there, and I just really want to talk about him and give him a highlight as who he is as an actor. So Edi Gathegi is remarkable in his acting quality and versatility. He has immense talent. One of his core strengths is in his lies of his ability to immerse himself into a role, into his characters, effortlessly bringing them to life with authenticity and conviction. Whether he's playing a villain or a supporting character or a leading role, he stays consistent in captivating the audience with his on-screen presence and charisma. And furthermore, Gathegi possesses an incredible physicality and presence that adds a depth and authenticity to the roles that he portrays. He has a natural ease in his movements and in his body language, and allowing him to embody his characters in a way that feels organic and also that feels believable. We just need justice for how he was done bad as Darwin, because as well as the praises that I'm speaking for him, like Mr. Terrific is a high-rated character for me, should be allowed to shine. So his ability to seamlessly blend into diverse roles, combine his emotional depth, physicality, and commitment to his craft, make him truly an extraordinary actor. So after me explaining my love for this actor of Edi Gathegi, I think that's how you say his name, I just feel like it's perfect casting for him to be Mr. Terrific. And now with me getting into Mr. Terrific, he's my 3rd favorite DC character. After Superman and after Batman, it is Mr. Terrific. And the thing about Mr. Terrific, he's a very versatile character, right? And so he's labeled as the 3rd smartest man in the world. And the debates is like the other 2 is Lex Luthor, but Lex Luthor is a villain and he uses his things for villainous gain. And then the second would be Batman, and him, well, Mr. Terrific and Batman have a rivalry with one another. But the thing is, Batman's persona to the rest of the world is that he's a violent vigilante, right, who works at night. So, you know, his prowess of being like the smartest man conveyed to everybody else within inside the DC universe besides his colleagues don't really know how smart Batman actually is, unless you're in Gotham. But, you know, the majority of criminals get beat up. So they're like, we don't know how smart he is, but we know how hard he punches. But when it comes to Mr. Terrific, his name is Michael Holt. He is a decathlon gold medalist, Olympic winner. Also, the 1st smartest man in the world. His powers, his mindset is adaptitude. So when it comes to learning quickly, learning language, learning things, he has He has multiple PhDs. He has his own company. He's a black version of Tony Stark inside the DC world. So the people do know him, and people also understand him as a superhero as well. And he uses these objects called T-spheres, and the T-spheres is used with nanotechnology, and the T-spheres have their own usage where they can adapt to what he needs them to do. They can be weapons, shields, lasers. He can fly on them, a lot of things. And the thing is that he was able to make them. They can scan. They're just able to help. And his mask is also nanotechnology. But the thing about his mask, it's able to change in a way where it covers up when it comes to like cameras, or when it comes to like ultraviolet or different spectrums of light. His face could protect him and cover him from that, and it's also nanotechnology, and he could use that to put on his costume. The thing about Mr. Terrific, he's the second iteration of Mr. Terrific, and the first Mr. Terrific was from the golden age of the Justice Society, who was Terry Sloan. And in his origin story of Michael Holt, Mr. Terrific, his wife died. He's an atheist, full hard atheist too. And his character, the crazy thing is his wife dies. She dies, and she's pregnant as well. So he loses that. So that's his loss, and that's his tragedy. The being known as the Spectrum, who is the embodiment of the wrath of God, that's crazy, comes to him and is like, you could use your hurt and loss for the better to become a hero. And he is like, there's someone who is similar to you, Terry Sloan. And then he gets shown that vision, so then he decides to become a hero inside of that, right? Yeah, he just ends up becoming a hero, and that's why he got Fair Play, because Fair Play used to be on Terry Sloan's stomach, and so he got that, on his jacket and what he does. And for those who don't know, there was a light version of him that was on the show Arrow inside the Arrowverse, played by Echo Kellum. But his name was Curtis Holt. He was just a version. They tried to add certain things to make him Mr. Terrific, but he was no Michael Holt. His character was very lesser under Oliver Queen's Arrow, and he had to learn his way to be as amazing as Michael Holt is. Curtis Holt was not Michael Holt at all, but he's a version of Mr. Terrific if anybody was interested to see a live action version of Curtis Holt as Mr. Terrific. But then he was in Justice League as the man in the chair of Justice League Unlimited.
Only I can properly deploy what remains of our resources.
Oh, please. Mr. Terrific can fill in. He's smart enough to do monitor duty and the Sunday Times crossword at the same time.
Go ahead, Sean. I'm already finished with the crossword.
With him being on Justice League Unlimited, Martian Manhunter was the man who was at the Watchtower, and he felt like he had to discover who he was and what Earth was, and that's who he is as a character. And so he ended up taking over that position, and he becomes more in the forefront of where to see him in, and he's the one that is delegating how missions go inside the JLU. So if you want to watch it, which is on Netflix right now, he'll be there. And then there was also Justice League Action. He was in there for one episode. Injustice. He was in the movie Injustice, and he played a chess game with the dictator Superman in there, and they have a conversation, a philosophical conversation, and he beat Superman in chess, and it was really good. So yeah, those are the places that you can find him as a character. But I will say, I have a lot of love for Mr. Terrific. As I said, he's my third favorite character in all of DC. Batman and Superman do take those first two spots. But all in all, having Edi Gathegi as the character, or having him casted as Mr. Terrific, is just great casting. And I feel like it's a highlight for Black heroes, and I really hope that James Gunn doesn't diminish his role. But I have some reading recommendations for you guys. if you want to know who Mr. Terrific is, there's also Mr. Terrific Volume 1 from the new 52 called Mind Games. I recommend. That's a lot of his story, and the thing is how that story ends will lead into another one of the recommendations I have. There's Checkmate Volume 2. And he takes up on a leadership role in that, and I recommend that. And I recommend Future's End. Michael Hall is like a catalyst. It's also a Batman Beyond story, so I definitely recommend Future's End to know more about who he is and where he's about. He's also involved in the OMAC story as well. And then there is, once again, I will always recommend this, is Earth 2 and Earth 2 Society. Those two runs, Mr. Terrific is in there, and he's terrific. And also there is a version of Terry Sloan that is also in there, who is like his progenitor. The machinations and the rivalry and the stakes that are involved with these two men inside those comic books, I definitely just recommend it. Oh, and also the Terrifics. Please read the Terrifics. They are like the DC version of the Fantastic Four. They have a version, and Metamorpho is also, who's got casted as Anthony Kerrigan, is also in the Terrifics as well, as Metamorpho, and all of them come together. There's Plastic Man in there, and there's Phantom Girl, and that is a different version of Phantom Girl. Phantom Girl is usually with the Legionnaires, who are from the 33rd century, but this is a different version of her that's inside the Terrifics, and they're just like a response to the Fantastic Four. But Plastic Man is the comic relief, just how like Johnny is for them, but he has the abilities as Mr. Fantastic, but they're not one and the same. The one who is like Mr. Fantastic is Mr. Terrific, the brains of the whole thing, and they fight a giant space monster. It's pretty wacky. It's pretty like just reminiscent of what the Fantastic Four has been, so I definitely recommend the Terrifics. So yeah, those are my recommendations to where to read good Mr. Terrific stories. But let me know your thoughts down below with this casting. Let me know your thoughts about all of it. Comment, just say hello. Also, last video, I said this last video for real. I want to give a shout out to Jordan Herbert 9707. So when you comment on the channel, I'm trying to give you a shout out. So make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, so we'll be able to bring you some of that attention. Subscribe to the channel. Look at the community page. I will be having an announcement real soon, so you should pay attention to that. And I guess that's it. Buy me a coffee. You know what? This takes a lot of work to talk and edit and put these things in to try to make this pleasing to everyone. So if you appreciate this time, donate to the channel. It goes a long way. With that being said, I'm gonna bring this video to an end, and I want you to be you, do you, see the bigger picture. Have a fantastic day, because you deserve it. This is that channel. Peace.
Mouth on top, Kung Fu, Bruce Lee chop, moon rocks, go Red Sox, tryna go far like Boondocks, headshot, blunt stay hot, talking shit, gotta pull up on they block, you fraud, I'm Couchgod, know you got a tax like a state charge, safe house, safe house, safe house.